This is not coincidence. I've done something here. You have to create opportunities. Going bust was always a major fear. I will put everything on the line. I want to take over the world and become a billionaire.
Today we're spending time with Joe Valente, winner of The Apprentice, built a great national business with Alan Sugar, has moved on now to the trade group, teaching literally thousands of people in the trade sector how to become successful, the systems that can take them from working on the tools to working on the business to becoming millionaires in their own right. Not to be missed. Welcome back to Success is a System. I'm here today with Joe Valente, winner of The Apprentice, and a good friend now. We work together. I'm working with them in the business. It's been a couple of months now that we've been working together, Joe.
Absolutely.
And my podcast is about systems that help people become successful. Often after I did Secret Millionaire, people would say to me, Mike, what's the secret to success? And I'm saying to you, there's no secrets, but there's lots of systems. Different people who have been successful have built a system that works for them. And the beauty is you don't have to create new stuff. You can learn from people who have gone before you by understanding how they built their business. Joe has had success in business, he's had some challenges in business, and now he's growing at a tremendous rate again with his new venture. Joe, tell us a little bit about your first entry into entrepreneurialism. Did it start when you were a kid, or when did you first realise you wanted to work for yourself?
Yeah, so I've got quite a cool story on this. And when I was about 7 years old, I used to collect Merlin football stickers. And on the walk to school, we would always stop in the local Happy Shopper at the time. And the football stickers were about 20p a packet. Now, I grew up in a family that was poor, struggled financially. So getting on a 20p wasn't easy, right? As crazy as that sounds now, you couldn't get 20p a day. You're lucky if you got 20p a week, right? So I needed to find a way to be able to buy more football stickers. I needed to feed my football sticker addiction. I wanted to open up that packet and I wanted to get a shiny out of the packet, and I wanted to go to the playground every day and go and do my swaps. What I was very good at always was hustling the playground, even from a very young age. So from the small amount of football stickers I did have, I was able to accumulate lots of other stickers. I was able to get kids to give me 10 stickers for one sticker, right? So very quickly, I built a pack of stickers up that I used to take to school. Well, after buying the stickers over a period of time, you'd get the same old football players, right? That you didn't really want, and very rarely you'd get the unique ones. So I went home one day and I was like, I've got about 100 stickers here and I want to buy some new packs. I've rinsed everybody at school, so there's no one else I can get the new people from. So me and my sister sat on the table and we made our own football sticker packs. We got 2 pieces of paper, squared them out, put in 11 stickers. In the shop you only got 6, stapled the ends together. So in the shop they were 20p, mine were double the amount of stickers and you got them for 10p. Yeah. And then
they were the ones you didn't want.
Yeah, the ones I didn't want. Yeah, they were all the crappy ones I could no longer swap, but people didn't know that. It was like a lottery anyway. And then I also did a packet where I gave them a guaranteed shiny, which everybody wanted the shinies, right?
Yeah.
So if you could get a guaranteed shiny, I knew they'd pay a premium. So I was knocking those ones out at 30p. So basically I made about 20 packets, went into school the next day. By the first break, I sold all of them and I went home with about £2.
Oh.
So I went straight to the shop and I had £2 worth of football sticker packets. And so I built a little football sticker business. And then as time went on, that evolved into selling sweets or selling pogs, and then it was, as I got into my teens, selling mobile phones or computer games or whatever it was. But that was my entry into entrepreneurship.
And where do you think that comes from? Because people often say, do you think entrepreneurs are born or created? You know, do you think anyone can become a businessman, but do you think anyone can become an entrepreneur? Because it's quite a different dynamic. What do you think? Were you born to trade?
I was broke. That was the problem.
It was the need.
It was born out of the fact that if I didn't make the money, I was not going to be able to live the life that I wanted. I came to realise that very, very quickly. I think entrepreneurship is, for me, is about wanting to, number one, add value to the marketplace, but number two, it's about creating wealth. And if you deliver good value to the marketplace, you're going to be able to build wealth. Now, when you don't have money or even an average amount of money, the first to want to make it becomes more intense. So, mine was purely driven out of the fact that if I don't learn how to hustle, if I don't learn how to sell, if I can't go out there and feed myself, then I'm never going to eat.
Yeah. So it reminds me, as you're saying, that Anthony Robbins, when I did Mastery University, one of the things he said is we're pushed by our fears and we're pulled by our dreams. And often people think about motivation as all being positive, but sometimes it is that I've got to get some money, we've got to get food, or I've got this burning desire to look after my mum, or to sort a problem out. What degree of your early kind of drive was desire versus need, if you like?
Well, I think as a kid, the desire was to, it wasn't really need. I didn't need sweets and football stickers, but I wanted them.
Yeah.
So I learned to make money very, very quickly because those were the things that I couldn't get. I didn't get pocket money. My parents couldn't afford to give me pocket money, so I had to graft at home. My dad ran our house like a military unit, so I had to clean the bathrooms, clean the kitchen, wash up every night. Everything had to be immaculate, but there was no reward for it. I just had to do it. There was no pocket money at the end of the week. You're just doing this because that's your job, right? If I wanted to get money, I had to find it from somewhere else.
So I mean, talking about success as a system, you built a system with those football cards.
Yeah.
Sounds like your dad had a sort of clear structure to your life. So would you say your life is, it kind of happens and you're on a journey, or how much is it defined by you? How much is it a system that you work to and then evolve and change? How important are systems in the way that you approach things?
Well, I love the title of the podcast and the message that you're putting out there, because I do think it is a system. And I think once you find a system and you can create something that you can replicate, you can almost guarantee your success. So I was expelled at 15, had nothing, down and out, left school. By the time I was 25, I'd won the Apprentice. I had a £1 million plumbing and heating business and a billionaire business partner. And I remember at 25 looking back and going, how the hell did this happen to me? How on earth have I managed to change my life around like this? And I looked at it and said, this is not coincidence. I am not one of those coincidence people. I don't think anything is coincidence. I've done something here that I've been able to replicate from the age of being expelled to becoming qualified as a plumber, being a gas engineer, starting a business, creating all these opportunities. I must be doing something. So I have my own system, and I'll tell you if you want.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why we're here to learn, so that people can pick up systems.
So I call it my 3-step success philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah. And I realised that I was very, very good at creating. So number one is creation. Everything in life starts with a creation. A relationship, a business, a new business opportunity, whatever it may be, you have to create opportunities. And entrepreneurs naturally are good at creating, right? Some people are terrible at it and they wait for opportunities to come knocking. I go out there and hunt them down. I can turn nothing into something. If you put me on a desert island with nothing, I'm going to find a way to build a boat and sail out there, right? So you've got to create. Creation, very, very important. Now, I don't want to get too deep, but obviously God was the creator of the world, and as individuals, we are co-creators. So we have the ability to create. The fact that we're sitting in a chair, this was once created in someone's mind. This was an idea that turned into this physical chair. This camera was an idea. This table was an idea. Me or you might have been an idea from our parents, right? We were an idea. But everything was once an idea, and now it takes the individual to go and turn that into something. So we create. Now, that's number one. The second thing that you need to do as an entrepreneur is maintain. Yeah, so you create something, a business, you start it, it's all very, very exciting. Then we get stuck in, then we go into the maintenance period where you've got to look after it. It's a bit like buying a house, buying your first house, you buy it, it's all well and good, you get your keys, everybody's happy. After 2 years, the weeds are growing, tiles are falling off the roof, right? That's all happening if you're not maintaining the creation. It's same in your business. If you don't do the paperwork, if you don't chase your debtors, if you don't show up every day, if you don't deliver a good service, then your business is going to fall apart, right? So maintenance needs to happen. Now, good entrepreneurs will move to stage 3, but a lot of people get stuck in stage 2. And this can happen in not just business, but in relationships, in employment, where you've created yourself an opportunity, you go in, you're maintaining it, you're doing all the things to make it happen, but then people get stuck in maintain. And maintain for me is where hopes, dreams go to die. You just get stuck in, you're doing a couple of 100,000 a year in your business, you're doing $1 million a year, you're showing up every day, you're going home, you're doing the next thing, and you lost what made you an entrepreneur in the start because you get stuck on doing all the boring shit, really, that needs to happen, but isn't that exciting. You know, you look at personal relationships, how many marriages just fall off because people get stuck in maintain. They lost that initial buzz that happened when the relationship first happened. Then you're not really interested in talking to each other, you don't buy flowers anymore, you don't go out together, and you just didn't maintain. Well, I realised that I was always very, very good at number 3, but number 3 has to come in at the right time, because many entrepreneurs pull this trigger too early, and when they pull it too early, they also can destroy their creation. So for me, number 3 is always continue to grow, because unless I have a goal that I'm aiming for, a new product that I'm about to launch, a book that I'm about to write, a TV show that I want to go on, a country that I want to go and dominate, then I'll get stuck in maintain. And the worst place for me personally is maintain. That's where I become very miserable, very depressed, hating life. I need to have something to push forward for, something to grow towards, and I believe everybody needs something to get up for, and it definitely isn't just about doing the bare minimum and then going home again. So number 3 is always continue to grow, and what I came to realise was then actually I've created a cycle that then repeats itself, because your continued growth also becomes your next creation that then you maintain and you continue to grow. And I literally, it sounds very, very basic, but I use this to win the Apprentice, start a business, launch a #1 best-selling book, launch a podcast, get into Forbes, build a national company. It's a very straightforward and simple process, but it's one that I use now. Create it, maintain it for a period of time, put the people in place to carry on the maintenance, then move on to the next thing.
No, it's interesting because I can see parallels in, albeit described differently, in some of the approaches that I take. So you say about creation, and you say whether it's created in your mind or I was thinking at one point you were going to go to the universe will provide, because I know that a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, thinks that if you put it out there, you find the way to do it. But the creative subconscious, and which is something I focus on a lot, is like they call it the taxi driver, in fact, because if you give it a destination, it will take you there. But you've got to define that destination. You've got to be really clear where it is you're going, not a woolly destination.
Absolutely.
And then the sort of maintenance thing, to me, when I was building a research business, I used to call it the paralysis of analysis. We get caught in the doing of the doing rather than the fact that we had a reason why we're doing this which was to get to a growth destination or a target, and so on. And then you talked about the continuous growth. One of the reasons I sold the business is when I did in 2012 and retired before I realised how much I missed and loved business, but was because I was terrified that we are always double digit growth, and I'm talking like 30-40% growth every year, not in just in sales but in profitability. My fear was that I'd become a 1 or 2%, and that kind of inflationary level growth, it terrified me really. So I didn't have that system that you're talking about, but those things were really relevant to where I was. And it's interesting that you have got this system, because a lot of people, I think, who are trapped in a job or trapped in a small business, they couldn't even put into words the system they follow. What they have been taught that I think holds them back, for me, is they've gone to school and they've been taught if you get good exams, you'll get a good job. If you get a good job, you'll be happy and comfortable. But they don't realise that they've been taught to stay in one place. I'll just be a plumber. I'll just be an electrician. I'll just be a bricklayer. I'll just be a technician, and not realising, but that's just I'm always going to be struggling to have everything I want, and certainly the security. So taking it beyond that. Along that way, though, you've had some challenges. So clearly you're not afraid of failure, because you're pushing at such speed. You're going to trip over occasionally. Tell me about things that you've found that have been a challenge to you, and how they have grown you, hurt you, or been part of your journey to get you to here today.
So, I mean, failure for me is something that always terrified me as I say that, but I say failure always terrified me as a business owner initially. When you start a business, I remember in my first year or two, you'd hear these stats about these businesses going out of business in year 1 and year 2, and I remember thinking, I've got through year 1, that must mean I'm good, I've made it to the next level, I've got through year 2. But going bust was always a major, major fear, although my actions wouldn't replicate that I'm scared of actually doing it, because I will put everything on the line, because I'm not afraid to lose it all tomorrow, because I don't want to just grow 1 or 2% as an individual.
Yeah.
I want to take over the world and become a billionaire. Now, unless you're going to take quantum leaps and be prepared to lose, because it's not all upside, there's no point putting all your money on black if you're not afraid, I'm afraid to lose all your money. So I've always taken calculated risks, but mostly those risks have always stacked in my favour to fail, but I've still gone for them. I'd put everything on the line for the chance to change my life, just by small margins, because I don't ever want to live like I lived growing up. So I think, and until you start to get to a level where you're confident now that, if I bust out tomorrow, I'll be rich again in a month. Right, I know I've got those skills now. I'm not even afraid. The first time it happened to me, I was probably a little bit unsure of what I was capable of, so I wasn't sure that I could come back. But I had nothing to lose, so it was almost like, well, let's put everything on the line, because what have you got to lose anyway? Yeah. So I would say that I'm always willing to risk. I'm still willing to risk. I built a national company. I had to exit that national business, shut down that national business. It wasn't a glory exit. It was almost a failed exit. And at 30 years of age, I found myself starting again. I'd lost the national business that I'd been building for 8 years.
And I've heard you talk about that a few times over the last few months, and you're very humble about it.
Yeah.
But also, you seem to talk about it in the way that between the lines, you're saying it was kind of necessary to get you to where you are now. And is that through retrospect? Was it looking back and saying, shit, what happened there? What did I do wrong? Or was it just, well, it hasn't killed me, I'm going to go again for something different? Because arguably, you'd have stuck with that and not moved on to the bigger business that you're building now if that hadn't happened.
Well, in 2019, when I went for it, and I was half the country, and I decided that we were going to go national, I knew at the end of the year I was either going to succeed or I was going to bust. Yeah, because you're not going to grow that big, and one of those two outcomes isn't going to be the end destination. So I'd got to a position where I thought we could make it. I genuinely believed that we could make it, and we didn't make it. Yeah. But if we'd have made it, it would have been a completely different story. But you've got to try. I didn't want to stay at half the size of the country. I wasn't happy. I was miserable. I didn't really enjoy running that business at the time, so I wanted to get it to national, and I wanted to exit. That was what the plan was, but exit with for millions and millions and millions, not exit for next to nothing.
And where did this desire to exit come from? And the reason I say that is, as I mentor different businesses, work with different people, what always surprises me, but also saddens me somewhat, is that so many people are hard at work, probably in that maintenance you talk about. They're on that hamster wheel, turning, and they're getting some speed, and they're feeling like they're doing some stuff, but they're never going to exit. So actually, they're going to keep working at that pace, maybe even building up reserves, but never really exploiting them or getting the time to enjoy them, because they don't have the focus on the exit. So where did it come from for you to understand the importance of exit? Either to say, right, I've done that, I can do something else with the proceeds of this, but it's not normal language for many business people to understand the importance of exit or to actually target that exit. And they struggle with it.
I think it was basically because I wanted to be a billionaire, and I knew that running a boiler business wasn't going to get me there. I had a conversation with my uncle when I was 24, and it was before I'd won the Apprentice actually, and before sugar had come into the picture. And I said to him, Tim, I was like, I really love this business. I'm working hard on this business, but I want to be a billionaire, and these numbers ain't stacking to get me to a billionaire. So what am I going to do? Because I'm either going to keep growing this for another 5 years, but I'm never going to get to a billionaire. So do I even bother, or do I just get out now and get into one of the markets where billionaires are created? And so he said to me, listen, Joseph, life's a journey, and you've got to understand that you're in an opportunity vehicle right now you've left your house, you've got in a taxi. You're in the taxi and you're going to get to the bus station. Once you get to the bus station, you've got to get out the taxi, get into the bus, bigger vehicle, then you're going to go to the train station. You get off the bus, onto the train, then you're going to go to the airport, onto the plane, it's going to take you over the other side of the world. So it really made me understand where I was, and for what reason
the
at that
transition
time.
necessary.
actually, rather than being demotivated and saying this is never going to fucking get me there, right, this is pointless and a waste of time, actually I need to do this for a period to build up enough wealth to then get to the next thing that's more profitable, bigger market, and so on. And so I wanted to exit because I wanted out. I mean, and then if you fast forward a couple of years after, you know, by 26 I'd won the Apprentice, I'd got into Forbes, I'd wrote a #1 best-selling book. I was smashing it. Like, I was no longer a plumber mindset. I wasn't even a boiler business owner mindset. I was a fucking superstar mindset. So it made me realise that running a boiler business...
Why didn't it work? If you had to put your finger on something, was there one thing that you thought didn't take it there? I mean,
why didn't it get to where... Because it was the first time that I'd done it and I went underprepared. I built a national company without the knowledge of building a national company, and if we want to get technical, we spent all of our money getting national, and we didn't have enough money to stay there. So I never got funding to. We got it there, and then once we got it there, I didn't realise that we had to stay there, and because we bootstrapped it so much that we were running on such a direct sales monster. We were doing 60 grand a day in new boilers to break even at one point. I had 35 national salespeople, and it was just insane pressure. Now, if you got to do 60 grand a day to break even over 5 days of bad sales, you're all of a sudden 300,000 in the hole. You take that over 2 weeks, you're 600 grand in the hole. You do it over a month, you're 1.2 million in cash flow down. Yeah, so we had a bad November in 2019. It was really warm, nothing like it is now. I mean, even this November was warm. Sales plummeted, Brexit was happening, no one was buying, and I had a national infrastructure that I needed sales to feed, and no matter what we put, we couldn't close them. So my cash ran out, basically.
Yeah, and one of the things I often say is businesses go bust because of lack of cash, not lack of opportunity. And I'll even talk about FDs. I have this kind of love-hate relationship with the finance side of any business, because they tell you what you can't do often more than what you can do. But the most important person to me often in a business is the FD, because the numbers never lie, and you've got to look forward and work out those numbers. So going into the new business then, so we've moved on, you found yourself a new niche, if you like, and you've scaled that very quickly to a great position in less than 2 years. We're working together. I know you have lots of mentees, and you invest a load in your own education, whether it's Grant Cardone and that. Tell me a little bit about your belief of the sort of system of post-school education and the importance of education mentoring around and ongoing in a business.
Well, you know, I hated the education system. From the age of 13, I did everything I possibly could to skive. I never wanted to go. I'd get off on the school bus, then I'd get back on the community bus, and then go back to where I lived, and then go and hang around in the park and do whatever. So I hated education. I thought that it's completely pointless sending me to lessons that I can't stand and I'm no good at, and then being told I'm no good at them. I know I'm no good at them. You don't need to tell me I can't draw, right? So it was almost like, you're wasting my time here. I'm wasting my life coming here on a daily basis. I don't have to come here. Hated authority, didn't want to be in a place where people could tell me what to do, and I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and that's a trait of entrepreneurs. We want to break the rules. We don't want to listen to authority. We're very headstrong. We know where we want to go, so I got fed up of it, and I left the system. But I wasn't stupid. I was very intelligent, and I realised that quickly that if I was going to turn my life around, I had to get into a form of education. Well, I didn't have the academia to go to university, didn't have the funding to go, but I could go to a regional college, and I was good in my hands, so I could get into construction. So I went to work at 15 for a year, and at 16, the first day college started, I was there. I had a placement, an apprenticeship. I'd already done a year working on the tools of a business. I was there, showing up, ready to go. Give me the books. I'm going to learn. I want to be here. I'm going to be the best damn plumber on the planet. And all I saw was at 18 I could be qualified. Then I could make X amount more money. Then being a gas engineer at 19, I went on to this course. I lived in Sheffield for 6 months, took out a loan to go there, and then by 19 I was making 50 grand a year. And so I realised the importance of education, but the education that I wanted to do for the job that I wanted to succeed in. If you want to create the high income skills, you've got to do one that you're passionate about, and then you're going to be consistent with it. And again, I genuinely believe that education, knowledge is power. Like, people leave school, at 16, they get a C, right, on their GCSEs. Now, that person thinks they're a C person for the rest of their fucking life.
Yeah.
They go out and get what a C grade job pays. They don't do anything else, and they live for the next 30 years as a C or a D or a B. But the reality is, that's the last time they get trained. So it wasn't until 22 and starting my business, because we obviously teach at the Trade Mastermind, you need to be a businessman, not a tradesman. I started my first business with a 15 grand loan with no business plan, without knowing how to run a business. And I think it's a great way to get started, and I used to live by that fact that I was this entrepreneur and I could do it without anything. And then very quickly, once you passed a few $100 grand, you realise that this business thing ain't as easy as you thought it was going to be. Yeah. And unless you're actually approaching it with the skills that I had, I didn't mess around becoming the best engineer. I realised the power of training. So why on earth would I start a business without understanding how to run a business? And it took me 2 or 3 years to actually realise the fact that I need mentors, I need coaches, I need to learn sales, I need to learn marketing, I must understand accounting, that underpins the business. And kind of Lord Sugar as the first mentor was the first wake-up call to make me realise that, Jesus, I am so far from the person that I need to be like. I better start shaping up and learn some new stuff, or I'm never going to get there. I'm currently a $500,000 a year plumber at 25, or what I was, $500,000 a year, and I've hit my ceiling. So the education is needed to get to the next level. You've got to be conscious in the fact that if you're not getting any more, it's because you've stopped adding value to the marketplace. Yeah. Then if you want to make more money in employment or in business, add more value to the marketplace. Add higher value to the marketplace, not just adding more time, because time's worthless.
So I mean, you talked a little bit about traits of entrepreneurs, and that being one of the traits. One of the other traits that I've seen in myself, as well as working with other entrepreneurs, mentoring entrepreneurs, is the biggest positive of entrepreneurs, I often say, is they see opportunity in everything. Yeah. The biggest problem with entrepreneurs is they see opportunity in everything. So keeping them focused, once they get that goal, they know where they're going, the energy is boundless, the ability to fix or look for a solution to fix. If you look at Dyson's, if you look at Branson's, and that is huge, but keeping them focused. So how do you keep yourself focused, or do you have a problem with that focus? And to me, the hardest thing working with somebody like yourself is keeping that focus without putting sort of straitjacket on the energy, because you need the speed and the destination, I guess, to keep that drive that you say you so much need. So how do you find working with someone who's in effect holding you to account?
So to put everybody into context, Mike's the chairman of the Trade Mastermind board. So what he's basically saying is I come up with loads of ideas and he's got to try and control me. Well, if you'd have met me at 22, I was 10 times worse than this. So when I first started the business, I was crazy. I mean, I was launching the plumbing business, then I'd have this idea, and then I launched the building business, then I launched the call centre, and I did this entrepreneur thing where you're just starting stuff and not doing the maintain period. You keep starting stuff, you half build a house, you don't end up with a house, right? You keep building on weak foundations, your houses are going to fall down. So after a few business ideas that take a lot of time and energy to create that didn't get off the ground, I'm like, right, hang on, I better stop messing around here and simplify. And I do think that after my experience with Lord Sugar, I built this £1 million maintenance company that was offering so many different services to so many different customers, and just looking at the numbers and going, we don't actually know who we are. Are we a new build plumbing business? Are we a social housing? Are we a domestic? Are we a commercial? We were doing all of it. And I phrase it like we were one of those Spanish menus where there's 40 pages of crap, versus being a Michelin star boiler installation business where we can have one thing on the menu and it tasted great. So when I got rid of that business and started the installation company and simplified, that's where I saw massive success and scale. So I do believe I'm a lot more disciplined than I was, but I'm still... it's always because I'm conscious of the creative that I have and controlling it so an idea has enough time to actually get off the ground. but I also won't run with an idea for too long if I genuinely believe the idea is going to die anyway. And when you're in a startup like I am now, because this is a completely different business to the construction one, to the plumbing one, right? There was already a market, you know what you're building your services to serve, and you can see the opportunity and you just build into it. This one is a training business, the first training business in construction of its kind ever. There's an unproven market, there's no product sets to replicate, so we are having to create so frequently to test. And that means that we don't know the longevity of the product, the take-up of the product, whether it's going to sell the numbers, whether it's going to deliver. And so you've got to be changing those ideas.
But I guess where the drive behind it, though, is the absolute belief that the demand is there and that you're the guy to deliver the demand. And it's funny, we often say to people, would you change anything if you went back? And nearly always they say, no, I wouldn't. If anything, I'd fail faster and try quicker kind of thing. And perversely, if I look at your journey so far, one of the things I see is you are now teaching people to build massive scaled plumbing, heating, all across all the trades businesses, in effect teaching them not to do what you did when you made the mistake. So having made that mistake, arguably, if you hadn't failed in that business and looked back and thought, I had a lot of the business skills, but it didn't quite work out, and then evolving your training systems so that you can then teach them how to scale, but with the knowledge that maybe you didn't have all of at the time, and to a plan, but more importantly, with someone there to help you along the way, because your team support them through that training and that process. So you've in effect turned what was a kind of wild ride into a systemated training program that can actually scale you bigger and broader across all trades, because they're so similar in the way they grow.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, we call it the 7-figure boiler business builder blueprint, the 7-figure construction business builder blueprint. And success leaves clues. So why on earth would you want to fail and make your own mistakes when you can learn from somebody else's and shortcut the process? I used to believe that, go out there and make your own mistakes and learn and everything else. That's all well and good, but that takes time, money, and emotion. Yeah, if I can guarantee that I don't fail by buying into somebody else's knowledge that's had, listen, how much do you want? Tell me what not to do. I don't care about what to do. Tell me what not to do. That's the value. I don't want to learn from my own mistakes. I want to learn from other people's, and I'm willing to pay the money for it because, failure's tough. And if you fail on a catastrophic level and lose everything, then, you've had that experience. I've had that experience. It's much harder to rebuild. It's a great experience, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. But if I could go back, Jesus Christ, I would much rather have guaranteed my success than have to do it the hard way.
Well, it's interesting you say about the focus is partly about what not to do. And the whole point of one-page strategic mapping that we're working on together is what's our current state, what's our future state, what areas we've got to work on, and what have we got to do in each area. And sometimes I say to people, so we've got our map, it's all on one page, we know where we're going in 3 years, and we know exactly what we need to do.
Yeah.
What do you think the most important driver of the map is? I'll say to them, and they'll say, well, it tells us what to do. I say, yeah, but actually, more importantly, it gives you defined things that you've got to do, but it's also 1,000 things you shouldn't do, because if it's not on the map, if we've properly considered it and taken the time to get that map right, it's what not to do. And the biggest issue I think that I see in a lot of business is being distracted. We're building a business, Bitcoin's a good opportunity, we're building, property's a good opportunity, and rather than being rifle focused on their destination with skill sets that they know they can achieve and people and a team they've built up, it's the distraction, the lack of focus, the lack of discipline that fucks people. Really.
And it's knowing. I think the biggest challenge that, and I'm coming through that experience myself, and still experiencing that myself, is knowing the time to pull the trigger for the next thing, because and especially if you're creative. I've come to realise that I don't want to build, run and manage the businesses. I want to create the business, put in the team, get out, get on to the next thing. A Branson style. I don't want to be in it for 20 years. I'll just lose my mind. And he's consistent on
that, isn't it? He gets in, adds his brand, builds it, sells it, keeps 10%, gets in and does that again and again across really diverse businesses. I mean, interestingly enough, knowing what you do want, and starting to think with that end in mind. Stephen Covey talks a lot about start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
And I was listening to Jim Ron this morning, and he had a version of it, because he said the ultimate end is our deathbed.
Yeah.
And he said the best way to die, if it's something you want to think about, but the best way to die, a good way to die, would be to be at your deathbed, done a load of what you want to do, with your loved ones around you, and you're telling them that you love them.
Yeah.
You love them. And they're telling you that they love you. And you can go knowing that was all good. He said, but the sad thing is about most people is, imagine those loved ones weren't there, and instead you were surrounded by the hopes and dreams that you never delivered.
Yeah.
And they would be saying to you, I was one of your dreams, and I came to you, and I was only for you, and you were the only person who could have brought me to life. But now I'm going to die with you.
Yeah.
And those dreams around us. What would be your kind of worst thing to be at your deathbed if that was a scenario and not deliver?
I mean, that is one of my biggest fears. And I've heard that through a lot of speakers like Jim Rohn or Les Brown and most of the talents in the graveyard. And it's not living my potential, living average, being in that deathbed, hearing the life support machine, beep, 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 and just thinking, fuck, I haven't got a tomorrow now. Because we take for granted tomorrow so much, and we're always pushing the things to the next day that, you literally have one opportunity. Now, what happens after death? There's a number of different beliefs in that. But what we do know is what we can do while we're on the planet. But I suppose the biggest fear for me is always at what sacrifice does my personal goals have over and above my family goals? Because I would also be gutted if I spent my whole life becoming a billionaire and never saw my son, which is probably a consequence. Being real, it's a consequence of becoming a billionaire. I don't know many billionaires that are able to get there and they spend every day with their family and everything else, right? That you've got to sacrifice. So, am I prepared to sacrifice my relationship with him over and above my personal goals? And I don't really know the answer to that. But
an interesting spin on that for you maybe is that I remember my brother-in-law, and he's not with us anymore, sadly, but he was a great guy, squaddy, straight talking, everything else. Yeah. And one day, because I was in America, Australia, New Zealand, all building the business, all chasing that dream. Yeah. And one day he said to me, Mike, you know what? You're a shit dad. Yeah. I said, fuck you, Dom. What do you mean you're a shit dad? Kind of thing. And we had this banter with it. And he said, well, you'll never hear. Yeah. And it really, we had a bit of Barney over it, not in a bad way, but banter. But it really made me think. And after I'd sold the businesses, and then I was at home a lot more, because I wanted to be there when the girls were becoming teenagers specifically. There was a lot going on in their life. And very quickly I started to think about things like this. And I thought, actually, if you'd have asked me that question again now, at that point, I'd have said, well, do you know what? Because it's a bit like saying what's more important, work or business, success or family. Work or business, work or family, success or family. If he asked me again, I'd say it's like asking me which one of my arms I want to keep. I've got to chop one of my arms off. Yeah. And the answer would be, they're both really important to me, and I'm more capable, more full, more whole with both of them. If you made me choose, I'd choose family because that's more important. But if you made me choose which arm, I'd say I'm right-handed, so cut off my left arm. But I wouldn't be whole without it. Yeah. And you know what? When I did have that 9 months where I was fully retired, I was getting in the way of my wife because she had stuff she was doing while I was away building business. I was annoying the kids because I'm saying, come on, let's do something. Yeah. And it's like, woo, get back off, man. You're kind of full on. And the reality is they don't need you there all the time. And in fact, I see now as they're becoming successful young women, the work ethic I gave them, the ability to be full on when I was there, but not always there, was a better balance than being always there but not there. Absolutely. Not connecting, not really being connected. So, that brings though to me, we're talking about success in a system. We're trying to find a system where you can be Joe, the billionaire that is your goal, but how do you balance that with downtime, with friends, with family? And we all know, I had a brilliant description, can't remember who it was, saying about friends and family that you have to leave behind. And he said, imagine your life's a rocket and you're being propelled towards space. He said, and then some of the boosters drop off. They were never built for the altitude you were going to.
Yeah.
They only took you that far. And he said that's a bit like some of the people around you. They were built to be with you for that altitude, and then they boosted you and you went on. You loved them for what they did for you, but they were never going to come all the way.
Absolutely.
How do you sort of manage that? Because I know you've talked a bit about relationship with your boy's mum and stuff like that. And suddenly, it's not that you ever aim for things not to work, but sometimes people do get left behind by the pace, the ambitions, the drive. How do you balance that?
I mean, I think first and foremost, you've got to do what you want to do for you. Cardone says it. Listen, I need to be selfish over my wife, over my kids, over everybody first. Because unless I'm selfish over all of those things, I'll never be a good person because I'll always be miserable. So I selfishly do what I want to do every day to be happy, to be good to them. So from very early on, I knew that I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and you're either with me or you're getting off. There's no other route. And I lost a lot of friends as I as I started to get into business, because they remain the same. I grew. They think you change. Of course, I'm changing. And if they don't want to change, those relationships can just fizzle out because you outgrow people. Yeah. So the people that are destined to stay will stay. The people that aren't won't, and you'll meet new people along the way. But I just see it as part of the process, and I fully understand the sacrifices that need to be made from success. And I just think that people are so naive in terms of what it means to be successful, and they want balance. I mean, you either want to be successful or you want balance, but there ain't both don't go hand in hand. So there isn't building a multi-million pound, becoming a multi-millionaire or a billionaire and having balance. If you want balance, then be employed, do 40 hours a week, get a salary, and spend the time working and spend the time with your family. That's balance. But being an entrepreneur and a business owner, not that wants to run a small business, but a big business, you won't get balance. So you have to understand the sacrifice. And I am actually, from what you're saying is that you'll always be around. I'd be terrible if I was around all the time. I'm quite a rare breed. I like to spend small amounts of time with people, have high quality conversations, and I don't want to sit on the sofa with you chatting for 10 hours. I'll never go to my mum's house and spend all Sunday afternoon sitting around there watching TV. I can just about sit down and have a 30-minute conversation and a coffee, then I'm out. So it's small visits, frequently.
But they're probably as glad as that as you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Too full on otherwise.
Absolutely. I'm better bouncing around by myself and spending small amounts of time with people than I am being absolutely full on, like you say.
There's some great insights in there, and you talked about those 3 steps earlier. But I really value your time. I'm conscious of your time. So one last question.
Yeah.
And it's the same question, but to 2 different target audiences.
Yeah.
One is to a 16-year-old who's kind of just about to do some exams, unsure about their life, don't know what they want to do, and they're a bit scared of the future because they haven't been given anything on a plate.
Yeah.
And the same question is to a 40-year-old who's found themselves suddenly waking up one morning realising I'm stuck in that job.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them, the 16-year-old and the 40-year-old who's stuck? What would you say? Because they're in different parts of their life, different things that are a risk for them.
Yeah, I mean, you've said it before, and it's a bit like getting in a taxi and saying drive. I think people don't achieve their dreams because they don't know what they are. I was with one of my really, really good friends the other day, and he's miserable, demotivated, doesn't know where he's going. And I said, have you ever wrote your goals down? And he said, nah. I said, okay, well, you're waking up every day going to work for what? He said, I don't know. I said, well, if you don't have a destination, how do you know what it is that you're working towards? So start spending 10 or 15 minutes a day and writing down your goals. It's fundamental. Nobody's going to get excited about life if they don't know what they're going to get excited about. No one goes to work to be excited. They go to work to achieve an outcome. If the outcome isn't there and there's no target or there's no goal, what are you motivated for? So I think the answer that I've given is suitable for both people. And if you're woken up and you're not where you want to be, well, I'd say actually for the 40-year-old, Steve Jobs says, if you wake up every day and look in the mirror for too long and you're not where you want to be, then you know it's time to make a change. You know, how many people are waking up every day absolutely miserable, hate their job, don't want to go to work, want to do all of this stuff, but they're not prepared to make the change. And without that change, nothing's going to happen, right? So get your goals down, get excited again, and do something about it.
A great answer, and really it brings us to a great close, because what it reminded me as you were saying that is less than 5% of the population have written goals.
Yeah.
But the 5% that do out-earn all of the 95% added together. That has been tested again and again and again. The 5% earning more than 95% combined just because they write that goal down. It's like it makes a real connection in your brain and focuses where you're going to go and what you're going to do.
Absolutely.
Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure,
Thanks,
mate.
Mike.
I appreciate your
Brilliant.
wisdom.
Good stuff.
If you've enjoyed today's session, like, subscribe, and listen in for the next session. Thank you.